Chapter 205. Lu Jingli's answer was perfect, and no one could find any flaws in it. The reporters finally shifted their attention to Ningxi when they could not get anything out of Lu Jingli. Even though Ningxi was the star of the show, Golden Era had always protected her well, and there was almost no need for her to show up. Ningxi, as far as I know, you have a good relationship with Ning Xueluo. What's her motive for doing this? Is there a conflict between the two of you? I think you're asking the wrong person. Reporter, the staff of the apartment you lived in said that you couldn't stand it anymore a few months ago. Do you have any explanation for this? No. It's my freedom to live wherever I want. Reporter, then where did you live during this time? Can you tell us? At a friend's place. Does Jiang Mui know about you joining Golden Era? I heard that you have a good relationship with the crew. Did he play the matchmaker this time? Ningxi, I know. Not bad. No. This Ningxi was just too cunning. It was impossible to get any gossip out of her. The reporter had no choice but to give up on the sensitive question, how do you feel about joining Golden Era? It was a blessing in disguise. I want to work hard and help my boss earn more money. I want to prove that he did not choose the wrong person. Ningxi replied. The reporter automatically brought the boss to Lu Jingli. Only Lu Jingli knew that she was talking about his brother. TSK, his brother must be overjoyed. Okay, that's all for today's press conference. If you have any questions, you can arrange for an interview in private. Miss Lin Jiji will be in charge of everything related to Ningxi from now on. Liang Feixing stood up and ended the press conference. All the reporters were longing for more. Starlight's press conference had lasted for 3 hours yesterday, denouncing Ningxi in all sorts of ways, but Golden Era's press conference only lasted for half an hour. Who was superior and who was inferior could be seen at a glance. Just when the reporters were about to leave, Lu Jingli suddenly spoke up. Hold on. What's wrong? What's going on? The reporters stopped in their tracks and turned around excitedly. Lu Jingli had his usual good-natured smile on his face as he kindly reminded them, have you forgotten something? Hey, what did I forget? The reporters looked at each other in bewilderment. Lu Jingli was still smiling, but there was not a trace of warmth in his eyes. Ningxi has been scolded by everyone for so many days for nothing. She has been accused of countless groundless crimes, and you don't have anything to say? This doesn't seem right, does it? The reporters were embarrassed when they heard that. They scrambled to apologize to Ningxi. At the same time, they hated Ning Xueluo. Ningxi raised her eyebrows in surprise, thinking that this funny little koi was quite good at bluffing when it was serious. However, as soon as he returned to the backstage, Lu Jingli immediately returned to his original form and excitedly hopped over. Little 1111, little 1111, dear little 1111. I'm free this afternoon. Let's have dinner at home. I'll buy the groceries, wash the vegetables, and do the dishes. You're in charge of cooking. She completely retracted her previous thoughts. She just wanted to send this idiot to heaven with a kick. Did he not know how easily his words could cause misunderstandings? Chapter 206. Liang Feixing was so shocked that he didn't even realize that the cup was already full. The water had already spilled all over the floor. He finally understood. No wonder Big Boss personally asked about Ningxi in the middle of the night. It turned out that Ningxi and Lu Jingli had this kind of relationship. Ningxi had beaten Lu Jingli 100 times in her heart. She forced a smile and said, "Second young master, I can't do it tonight. I have an appointment with a friend. Maybe another day." Then, he said to Liang Feixing, Lin Jiji, and Chen Jing with a natural expression, "Director Liang, Sister Lin, Lawyer Chen, if you guys are free, remember to come together. Previously, when I said that I was good at cooking, second young master kept asking me to cook a meal to repay him. I can't let him be the only one benefiting. Thank you so much for today. Thank you." After saying that, he bowed deeply. Ningxi's simple words resolved all the ambiguity just now. Lin Jiji nodded with appreciation. This girl's ability to deal with sudden crises was not bad, and her performance at the press conference today was also very good. She was indeed a good seedling. As for her relationship with Lu Jingli, It seemed like it was easy to misunderstand. However, it was obvious that the atmosphere between the two of them was not that of a man and a woman. They should just be good friends. Pearl River Imperial View, Ning Xueluo's apartment. Su Yang bought some supplements early in the morning and came to see her. After the two of them chatted for a while, Su Yang looked at the time on his watch and turned on the TV. On the screen, the press conference of Shengshe Entertainment had just begun, and Lu Jingli was introducing Ning Shi. Ning Xueluo did not sleep for the whole night. She had applied several layers of powder on her face to cover the dark circles under her eyes. She had been waiting to watch the live broadcast, but she did not expect Su Yang to come. She couldn't predict what would happen later, but she knew that she couldn't watch the press conference with Su Yang. Ning Xueluo hugged Su Yang's arm and acted coquettishly. "Brother Yang, what's so good about TV? Is it better than me? Shall we do something else?" Su Yang patted her hand, his eyes still focused on the television screen. "Xueluo, stop fooling around. Brother Yang, are you that concerned about Ningxi?" Ning Xueluo pretended to be unhappy. "Don't you care? Don't you want to know what Xiaoxi will say at the press conference?" Ning Xueluo choked. "Of course I care about Xiaoxi, but I don't like it when you put all your attention on her. Alright, don't throw a tantrum like a child. Stay quiet and accompany me for a while." Su Yang's attitude was unusually firm this time. Ning Xueluo gritted her teeth and continued to watch the live broadcast. At this moment, Lin Jiji was announcing Leng Manyun's marriage and retirement. Following that, a reporter stood up and questioned why Golden Era signed Ning Shi. Ning Xueluo's heart was in her throat. She thought to herself, "Go ahead and make a scene. It would be best if we can separate on bad terms." However, this was Golden Era's territory, and the reporters did not dare to go overboard. They only grumbled for a while before falling silent. Ning Xueluo carefully looked at Su Yang's reaction, only to find that Su Yang's eyes never left Ning Shi, even though Ning Shi didn't say a word. She could not help but feel a strong sense of crisis. Just then, the lawyer clicked the mouse, and then a familiar voice came from the television. It was Zhong Qiong's voice. Ning Xueluo's heart was beating fast. She kept comforting herself that even if Ning Shi got Zhong Qiong's confession, she could only use it to clear her name. No one would know that she did it. However, what happened next smashed all her hopes into smithereens. Chapter 207. The remote control in Ning Xueluo's hand fell to the ground. Her face was pale and contorted. The worst result she had expected was to clear Ning Shi's name, but she had never expected that the other party had such important evidence and completely exposed all her secrets. Could it be that the person who sent the anonymous email was trying to do both? First, she extorted 8 million from her, and then she sold the evidence to Golden Era. On the TV, the reporter was asking Ning Shi, "As far as I know, you are very close to Ning Xueluo. What is her motive? Is there something between the two of you?" Ning Xueluo's fingers trembled. She quickly turned off the TV and threw the remote control away. She then hugged Su Yang. "Brother Yang, let me explain." When she hugged Su Yang, she realized that he was trembling all over. His fists were clenched so tightly that they made cracking sounds. His usually gentle and calm face had turned into a ghastly expression. She had never seen him in such a terrifying state. Ning Xueluo was overwhelmed with fear. She could not help but hug Su Yang even tighter. "Brother Yang, it's not me. It's really not me. I really don't know. I don't know why caging would do such a thing. Is it because I was under too much pressure and scolded her? Is she trying to harm me because of that?" Su Yang let her hug him. There was no warmth in his voice. If Kui Caging only wanted to harm you, why would she ask Zhong Qiong to harm Ning Shi? What good would it do her? Ning Xueluo's face stiffened. She immediately said, "She must have found a scapegoat to avoid being found out. She has always been by my side. She knows that Ning Shi has a bad attitude towards me in private. If she framed Ning Shi, I wouldn't suspect anything. Even if that's the case, what about your injury?" Su Yang continued to ask. Ning Xueluo had calmed down a little by now. She explained with a wronged expression, "I told you that I'm fine. My parents were too worried about me. They made me stay in the hospital to recuperate. Brother Yang, you know that I was really mentally and physically exhausted during that period of time. My body was in pain every day. How could they slander me like that? Su Yang was so shocked that he was almost numb. His face was slowly filled with deep pain. Xue Luo, can I still continue to believe you? Ning Xueluo's face was covered in tears as she held onto his hand tightly. She looked at him as if he was her only savior. Brother Yang, trust me, okay? Right now, everyone outside must be criticizing and doubting me. If even you don't believe me, I don't know what courage I have to persist on. I don't care if others don't understand me and doubt me, but don't tell me you don't understand me. Do you think I would do such a thing to Xiaoxi? Big brother Yang, I beg you, don't abandon me too. Su Yang was in a daze and did not react for a long time. Ning Xueluo stared at him nervously. After a while, Su Yang finally took a deep breath and pushed her arm away bit by bit. He staggered to his feet and walked towards the door. Ning Xueluo followed him in a panic. Brother Yang, where are you going? Don't follow me. Leave me alone. With a bang, Su Yang slammed the door. In the room, Ning Xueluo's face was gloomy. She fell to the ground as if she had just survived a disaster. She quickly picked up her cell phone and called Chang Li. Chapter 208. Su Yang stumbled down the stairs and drove aimlessly on the bustling street. His mind was filled with the scene of that day when Ning Shi helped Xue Luo to cover her wound and called for help, but was rudely pushed away by him. In the hospital, she faced the accusations of Uncle Ning and Auntie Ning. Her eyes were filled with sadness, but she stubbornly refused to lower her head. It was filled with the hurtful words and accusations that he had sent to her. After the matter had happened, he did not even consider for a second before standing beside Xue Luo. He did not even think of listening to her explanation. He kept saying that even if they broke up, he would take care of and protect her like his own sister, but he had always been doing things that hurt her. Xue Luo had him, parents who loved her dearly, a company, fans, but what about her? She was being criticized by the whole world. She had to bear everyone's abuse and endure all the grievances of being wronged. In the end, the ones who stood up for her were not the hypocritical people who claimed to care for her, but strangers who did not know her at all. Through the car window, he saw on the big LED screen outside the shopping building, Ning Shi answered the reporter word by word with a serious expression. I want to work hard, help my boss make more money, repay his kindness, and prove that he didn't choose the wrong person. He knew that this was not an official answer, but her heartfelt words. She had always been like this. As long as someone treated her well, she would treat them wholeheartedly. He always thought that she had changed, but he was the one who had changed. His mind was frantically replaying the scene of her walking out of the hospital gate alone from the window of the ward that day. Thinking of that frail and helpless figure, his heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. At night, Vivi Bar. This bar was not big and its location was very remote. However, it was very stylish. It was opened by a senior in the entertainment industry and was very private. It was a place where people in the industry would go to relax and gather. When Ning Shi arrived at the private room, Jiang Mui was already there. He was sitting on the sofa with his legs crossed. There were several empty wine bottles on the coffee table. Ning Shi took off her mask and sunglasses. Hey, you're drinking without waiting for me. Jiang Mui snorted disdainfully. Aren't you going to quit drinking? Even if I wait for you, I'm the one drinking it myself. Ning Shi shrugged. Well, forget what I said. Just keep drinking. Did you give me any juice? Order my ass. There's no juice in the bar. Jiang Mui glared at her. Ning Shi rang the bell to call the waiter. A handsome young man walked in and asked with a smile, Miss, what do you need? Ning Shi took out a large bill and stuffed it into his pocket. She blinked and said, Handsome boy, can you help me buy 2 bottles of juice? The young man was stunned for a moment. His cheeks turned red, and he smiled. I'm willing to serve you. Jiang Mui's eyes almost popped out. Ning Shi, can you calm down? Don't flirt with every good-looking girl you see, okay? Ning Shi stretched out her leg and kicked him. Go away. How did I flirt? You're the one who thinks that everything is dirty. Jiang Mui patted the dust on his pants. Don't talk nonsense with me. Get to the point. You were the one who started it. Ningxi rolled her eyes at him, then leaned back on the sofa and let out a long sigh. She could no longer suppress the tiredness she had been hiding for a day, and it all poured out from between her eyebrows. Chapter 209. Seeing her like this, Jiang Mui asked awkwardly, "Why are you so tired? Didn't today's press conference go well? Everything had been taken care of by a certain someone. It's all your fault. I'm so tired." Ningxi's face was full of annoyance. She got up and stared at him. "Let me ask you, that day Lu Tingxiao really kissed me?" Jiang Mui downed the wine in his glass in one gulp. "If I'm lying to you, I'll burn all my equipment and never play games again from tonight onward." Ningxi nodded. "Okay, I believe you." That was a vicious oath. Jiang Mui couldn't help but curse. "Count how many times I've reminded you. You just won't listen. Why don't you just die of stupidity? How long have we known each other? How long have you known Lu Tingxiao? You don't believe me?" Looking at Jiang Mui's hurt face, Ningxi sighed and said, "In fact, Lu Tingxiao told me about it when I first met him." "What did he say?" Jiang Mui looked nervous. Ningxi spread out her hands. "He said he wanted to marry me." Puff. Cough, cough. "What did you say?" Jiang Mui was almost choked by the wine and coughed violently. Ningxi patted him hard on the back. "I was even more shocked than you at that time. And then?" Jiang Mui asked anxiously. "Then I asked him why he wanted to marry me. That's so unscientific." "Then what did he say?" "He said I saved Xiaobao, so he wanted to repay me by marrying me." Fuck. "How did you answer him?" "I said I saved Xiaobao, and Xiaobao saved me, so we're even. There's no need to report it." "Then I ran away." Jiang Mui sprang to his feet and paced back and forth in the room. "I really want to strangle you. Lu Tingxiao has been harboring evil intentions towards you from the very beginning, and he has already said it out loud. Why don't you stay away from him?" Ningxi raised her eyebrows. "Come on, how could you say no to Xiaobao's face? Besides, I always thought that Lu Tingxiao wanted to marry me because of Xiaobao, okay? Later, I rejected him, and he didn't force me. What else could I do?" "What do you mean for Xiaobao? How hypocritical. And you're practically a pig." Jiang Mui finally stopped. He stared at her and said, "Let me put it this way. Normally, when a hero saves a beauty, if the beauty is not interested in the hero, she will definitely say, 'Thank you, hero, for saving me. I am willing to do anything to repay you.'" Now the question was, if the beauty was interested in the hero, what would she say? "Xiaoxi, please answer me." "Oh." Ningxi rubbed her chin. "Will a beautiful woman say, 'This little girl is willing to devote herself to you'? So, now do you understand the meaning of devote your life to me? It's because I like you. I like you. I'm interested in you." Jiang Mui roared in her ear. Ningxi scratched her numb ears. "You're right," Jiang Mui said. "That's the fucking truth." Ningxi stood up and put her hand on Jiang Mui's shoulder to calm him down. Then she said slowly, "Okay, since you asked me, let me ask you a question." Jiang Mui looked at her warily. "What do you want to ask?" "Let me ask you. If you walked into a room and saw the person you liked was drugged with aphrodisiac, wearing transparent pajamas and lying on a kilogram-sized bed covered with red petals, what would you do?" Chapter 210. Jiang Mui was stunned for 3 seconds. Then he pushed her away as if his ears were burning. "Ning Xiaoxi, you're so dirty. Get lost. Don't pretend to be innocent. Give me a more serious reply. Why did you ask me this question?" Jiang Mui avoided her eyes. He didn't dare to say that Ningxi's words were too vivid. Besides, the person in his mind was, "Answer me first." Ningxi urged. Jiang Mui hesitated for a long time and finally answered hesitantly, Of course I did it directly. Are you still a man if you don't do it? Or that man doesn't like that woman at all?" Hearing the expected answer, Ningxi looked at him with a faint smile. "Why are you looking at me like that? Am I wrong?" Jiang Mui's hair stood on end under her gaze. "You're right. Now you can tell me why you asked me this question, right? Ningxi rested her chin on her hand and said absent-mindedly, do you know what Lu Tingxiao did when he encountered such a situation? Jiang Mui's face changed instantly. Lu Tingxiao encountered such a situation? What do you mean? Ningxi briefly explained the cause and effect and then said. Then Zhu Xiangqing tied me up and sent me to Lu Tingxiao's bed. Lu. What did Lu Tingxiao do? Jiang Mui was so nervous that his voice changed. He did nothing. Ningxi recalled that night. He comforted me not to be afraid and talked to me to distract me. From beginning to end, he didn't do anything to disturb me. He just quietly accompanied me through the most helpless and difficult night of my life. Hearing this, Jiang Mui bit his lip and couldn't say a word. Ningxi stared at him. Which possibility do you think Lu Tingxiao is? Not a man? Or he doesn't like me? Jiang Mui clenched his fists. I'm sure he likes you. And he didn't think Lu Tingxiao was unmanly, but too manly. If it were him, he would never be able to do that. Ningxi nodded. I wasn't sure before and I didn't dare to be sure. But now I'm sure he likes me. So there's a third possibility. Jiang Mui immediately looked at her. What? It's not because I'm stupid, but because his rank is too high. I'm actually not surprised that I'm tempted by him, and I'm not unwilling either. After Ningxi said this, there was a kind of compromise between her misty brows. Jiang Mui's voice trembled and he almost couldn't speak a complete sentence. You have feelings for him? Ningxi smiled. Although I don't want to admit it and I've been avoiding it for so long, it's the truth. Jiang Mui punched the tea table, his scarlet eyes almost popping out of their sockets. Ningxi, how much do you know about him? How much do you know about him? You're only seeing the facade he's putting up in front of you. Do you really think Lu Tingxiao is as gentle and gentlemanly as he looks? Do you know that Zhuo Qingqing died in the wilderness? Do you know what happened to that fat pig Zhu Xiangqing? Did you know that he used a plane to create rain just to ruin a kissing scene? Even the sudden accident in my family, it was all planned by him. Ningxi was silent for a long time and then said softly, but Jiang Mui has never done anything to hurt me. If I'm afraid of him, stay away from him, and despise him because of that, it's unfair to him. You can say that I can't tell right from wrong, or that I don't know what's good for me. All I know is that he's good to me, very good. No one has ever treated me so well as he does. Chapter 211. Jiang Mui looked dejected and said with difficulty in a hoarse voice, Are you going to be with him? How is that possible? Ningxi glanced at him. I know my own limits. Jiang Mui frowned. That's not what I meant. I'm not saying that you're not good. I'm just saying that Lu Tingxiao is too scheming and dangerous. The environment of the Lu family is not suitable for you. Brother, thank you for thinking so highly of me. I know what I'm like. Ningxi interrupted him. Her expression had completely returned to normal. Don't worry. Being attracted doesn't mean that I've lost my mind. I know what I'm doing and what I should do. Jiang Mui was not happy to hear her words. Instead, he felt as if there was a soaked sponge in his chest. What do you think you're like? You're serious and diligent. You look cynical and heartless, but you're actually very meticulous. You deserve the best and the most suitable man for you. Ningxi was stunned for a moment and then looked surprised. Golden Retriever, how can I be so great in your mind? Have you fallen in love with me? Jiang Mui's back stiffened instantly. Fuck off. Ha ha ha. Ningxi clutched her stomach and laughed for a while. Then she looked at him gloomily. Jiang Mui, as you said before, how much do you know about me? How much do you know about me? You've only seen the side of me that I want you to see. Do you really think that I'm exactly what I appear to be? The moment Ningxi looked at him, Jiang Mui almost thought that she had seen through his mind. He thought that she deliberately said those words to remind him to give up, in the Lu family's house. Lu Tingxiao sat on the sofa in the living room, reading Bond's documents attentively. On the other hand, Lu Jingli had been wandering around the house the whole night as if there were needles on his butt. Brother, little 1111 has a date with Jiang Mui tonight. Don't you want to know what they talked about? I have a hunch. The content must be very explosive. And it's very important to you. Lu Tingxiao flipped a page without even lifting his head. Sigh, brother, it's all your fault. You're too old-fashioned. I asked someone to secretly plant a listening device, but you wouldn't let me. I can only stay at home and worry. Lu Jingli complained. Although from the current situation, he was the only one who was anxious. In the end, even someone as patient as Lu Tingxiao couldn't take it anymore. Be quiet, or I'll go back. No. I'm not going back. He still had to wait for 11:11 to come back to get some information. Otherwise, how was he going to sleep tonight? It's almost 11 o'clock. Why aren't they back yet? Lu Jingli was scratching his ears and cheeks anxiously when his phone rang. It was an unknown number. It's so late, who's calling me? Lu Jingli picked up the phone and went to the yard to answer. 10 minutes later, Lu Jingli rushed in as if he had been injected with chicken blood. This is really like someone sending you a pillow when you're about to doze off. Brother, guess what I got just now? It's the recording of 11:11 and Jiang Mui's private room. I didn't do it. It was secretly recorded by an ignorant paparazzi working for a gossip company. Fortunately, their boss was smart enough to stop it after receiving it. He even found me and apologized to me. Chapter 212. Lu Tingxiao didn't even blink when he heard that. He spat out 3 cold words from his thin lips, destroy it. Lu Jingli felt as if a basin of cold water had been poured on him. What? Even God is helping you. You won't listen to me? Lu Tingxiao's face became colder. Do I have to say it again? Seeing that his brother was really angry, Lu Jingli quickly nodded like a chick pecking rice. Okay. I'll destroy it. I'll destroy it. Alas, he really didn't know what to say about his brother. Except for when he was in front of 11:11, he was too principled and didn't know how to be flexible at all. However, he was different. Although he said yes, he didn't really want to destroy it in his heart. TSK, I'll keep it secretly, it will come in handy one day. Lu Jingli was sighing when suddenly a small figure ran down the stairs like a gust of wind and then ran outside. 11:11 is back? Lu Jingli hurriedly followed Xiaobao out. When he arrived at the door, he saw that Ningxi was back in Jiang Mui's car. From their expressions, there was nothing unusual. Jiang Mui seemed to have drunk a lot while Ningxi didn't seem to drink much. Ningxi got out of the car and picked up Xiaobao, who rushed out to greet her. She looked helpless and distressed. Sweetheart, it's already 11 o'clock. Why are you still up so late? Didn't you say not to wait for me? Xiaobao stuck in Ningxi's arms, tightly hugging her neck and staring at Jiang Mui behind Ningxi. His little face was full of vigilance and rejection. Jiang Mui's mouth twitched slightly. It was so fucking unfair. Lu Tingxiao was cheating. Lu Jingli knew what Jiang Mui was thinking at a glance. He walked over and patted him on the shoulder sympathetically. Don't be sad. You don't have a son. Jiang Mui's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? Lu Jingli leaned close to his ear and whispered, stop pretending. You like Ningxi, don't you? A trace of panic flashed across Jiang Mui's face, and then he said with a straight face, second uncle, are you kidding? How could I like her? Lu Jingli touched his chin and looked inquisitive. Strange, really strange. What had happened between the two of them? Jiang Mui obviously liked her, but he still didn't want to admit it even at this point. Ningxi was about to carry Xiaobao into the house when the phone in her bag suddenly rang. She picked up the call. Hello, who is this? Hello, are you Miss Ningxi? Your boyfriend got into a car accident and is being treated in our hospital. Please come here immediately. Ningxi was confused. What? My boyfriend? As soon as she said that, Lu Jingli, Jiang Mui, Lu Tingxiao, and even Xiaobao all fixed their eyes on Ningxi. Ningxi coughed awkwardly. Ahem, did you make a mistake? I don't have a boyfriend. But before the patient fainted, he left you his number. You'd better come quickly. The address of our hospital is... The person on the other end of the phone hurriedly hung up the phone. Ningxi stood there with her phone in her hand, looking confused. Fuck. Who is it? Jiang Mui leaned against the car, snorted, and glanced at her. It's your ex-boyfriend, isn't it? He almost died in the car accident, but he still left you his number. How infatuated. Ning, she kicked him. Don't be sarcastic. Then 11:11, do you want to go? Lu Jingli's eyes lit up. Although it was a question, his face said go, go, go. Chapter 213. Ning, she pinched her eyebrows. It's a matter of life and death. Let's go. What if it's someone I know? But what about Xiaobao? Before she could finish her words, Xiaobao had hugged her tightly and buried his face in her neck. He looked as if he didn't want to be separated from her again. Because Xiaobao wouldn't let her go, Ning, she had to take him with her. Since Xiaobao wanted to go with them, Lu Tingxiao had to go with him. As for Lu Jingli, he insisted on volunteering to drive for them. Seeing that the Lu family was so shameless, Jiang Mui decisively squeezed into the car without hesitation. In the end, all of them followed him to his death. Ning, she was speechless. When they arrived at the hospital, they saw several ambulances parked at the entrance and the medical staff were busy going back and forth. The stretchers were full of patients with bleeding heads. It seemed that there had been a serious traffic accident. Ning, she covered Xiaobao's eyes to stop him from seeing the bloody things and coaxed him softly. Baby, it's a mess in the hospital. Can you wait for me in the car? Xiaobao held her waist and lowered his head pitifully. He was so sleepy that he was about to doze off, but he still refused to sleep. Ning, she leaned over and kissed his little face. Xiaobao, listen to me, I'll be back soon. After being kissed, Xiaobao regained some of his vigor and nodded. Then I'll go with you. Ning, she said to them. Lu Tingxiao said, I'll go with you. Jiang Mui said, I want to go too. The two of them said almost at the same time. Ningxi, it's not safe for you to go alone. Lu Tingxiao frowned. Jiang Mui snorted and said confidently, I'm just curious to see who it is. Ning, she felt a headache coming on. She looked at Lu Tingxiao, then at Jiang Mui, and finally at Lu Jingli. Lu Jingli blinked innocently. Why was sister-in-law looking at him? At last, Ning, she said, I don't know what's going on there. It's not appropriate for me to go alone. Please go with me, second young master. Lu Tingxiao, you, stay with Xiaobao. A dark light flashed across Lu Tingxiao's eyes. All right. As for you, Jiang Mui, stop it. Don't you know how much trouble you can cause with your face? Running to the hospital in the middle of the night. Are you trying to make a big scoop? Jiang Mui's face was filled with anger. Why did she have to be so fierce to me and speak so softly to Lu Tingxiao? What the hell? Let's go. Little 11:11, I'll go with you. I'll accompany you. Lu Jingli was so excited that he almost jumped up and down on the street. Happiness came too suddenly. This was really a case of the sandpiper and clam fighting and the fisherman benefiting. Hospital emergency room. It was a mess inside. Ning, she searched left and right for a long time before she finally found the doctor who had called her. Hello, I'm Ningxi. Where is my friend you mentioned before? You're Ningxi. He just had an operation. He's in Ward 307 on the 12th floor. Go and recognize him. He has nothing to prove his identity. All right, thank you. So Ningxi and Lu Jingli rushed upstairs. The elevator was too crowded, so they had to take the stairs. It was a total of 12 floors. Ningxi was exhausted, but Lu Jingli acted as if nothing had happened and was still in high spirits. She finally understood why Lu Jingli could run Shengshe Entertainment so well. This guy's enthusiasm for gossip was unparalleled. Chapter 214. Finally, they arrived at Ward 307. Ning, she bent over and panted. She was about to push the door open, but Lu Jingli couldn't wait to open the door in front of her. A second later, before Ning she could see who was inside, Lu Jingli's face suddenly darkened. He closed the door, then held her shoulders with both hands and pushed her out. Little 11:11, let's go. What's going on? I've been looking forward to it for so long, but it turns out to be this guy. Just let him die. Who the hell is it? Why are you reacting like this? Anyway, you won't regret it. Su Yang. Ning, she raised her eyebrows and asked. Lu Jingli pulled a long face. That's him. Can you go now? I can't let him go. Ningxi pushed Lu Jingli's hand away, turned around, and paced toward the ward. Lu Jingli stamped his feet anxiously. 1111, why do you care about him? You. Do you still have feelings for him? Ningxi ignored him and went straight into the ward. She saw Su Yang in the ward. His head was wrapped in gauze, and there was an intravenous drip in his hand. He was lying quietly on the bed. Ningxi gently sat down on the edge of the bed and reached out to brush his messy hair. She looked gentle and said in an even gentler tone, Brother Yang, Lu Jingli. What the hell did he see? What did he hear? Could it be that Ningxi still has feelings for this scum? Fortunately, his brother didn't come up, or he would go crazy if he knew. Just as Lu Jingli was thinking about this, he suddenly felt a chill behind him. Then he turned around and saw, his brother was standing behind him. Brother, why are you here? Xiaobao and Jiang Mui, who were in his arms, were also here. With his imagination, he immediately guessed that Xiaobao couldn't wait to come up, so his brother brought him here. Jiang Mui naturally couldn't wait to come up. This time we're done for our. In the hospital bed, Su Yang frowned with a pale face, and then slowly opened his eyes. 1111, how do you feel? Ningxi asked. Su Yang looked at the girl in front of him in a trance. Am I dreaming? Every time they met, they would quarrel sarcastically and then part on bad terms. He couldn't remember how long it had been since he last saw her talking to him in a pleasant manner. When he had just woken up, he had seen a trace of worry and concern in her eyes. He had even heard her call him Brother Yang. Ningxi stood on the edge of the bed and her face became cold again. You just had an operation. The doctor said that you are fine. You just have a slight concussion and need to be observed for a period of time. If there is nothing else, I will leave first. Just as he was about to turn around, someone grabbed his wrist. Don't go. Xiaoxi, don't go. Anything else? Su Yang looked at her with a struggling expression and said in one breath, although I know you don't care and don't need it, I'm sorry. I still want to apologize to you. I misunderstood you. You know what? When I thought I was going to die, I couldn't think of anything else. My only regret was that I didn't have time to apologize to you. Outside the door, Lu Jingli looked at Ningxi's wrist being held by Su Yang. He was so scared that he swallowed and turned around to see his brother's expression. It was really scary. She was going crazy. What on earth did 1111 want to do? Chapter 215. Su Yang, you don't have to apologize, because even if you were given another chance, you would still choose to believe Ning Xueluo. Su Yang said anxiously, don't tell me you won't. Let's take the current situation as an example. Did Ning Xueluo tell you that she is innocent? Did she put all the blame on Kui Keijing? As for you, are you going to trust her unconditionally again? If I tell you now that she is lying to you, will you believe me? Ningxi asked word by word. Su Yang subconsciously avoided her cold eyes and then said firmly, I will investigate it. Ningxi shook her head with a smile. You don't believe her if you need to investigate it. When you believed her, you didn't even listen to me. Xiaoxi, Brother Yang, Xiaoxi. Su Yang suddenly raised his head. This time, he heard it clearly. She really did call him Big Brother Yang. Ningxi looked at the night outside the window and seemed to see through the night to a distant time and space. She said in a faint voice, Brother Yang, do you remember? When I was 9 years old, I really wanted to buy a school bag with my idol's print, but my family wouldn't let me. Then they lost 50 yuan. My grandma insisted that I stole it. At that time, even my parents were a little suspicious of me. Although Xiao Nuo was on my side, he also thought that I took it, because he knew that I really liked that male star. Su Yang couldn't listen to Ningxi anymore. His body trembled and his eyes turned red. Ningxi laughed at herself and said in a hoarse voice, at that time, only you believed that I didn't take it. You even ran out with me and in the middle of the night, we knocked on the door one by one and asked the children who came to my house that day. Finally, we found out who really stole the money, do you know? At that time, I thought that I must marry the man in front of me when I grow up. Xiaoxi, Stop. Su Yang closed his eyes in embarrassment. Outside the door, Lu Jingli was also screaming in his heart. Sister-in-law, stop. I'm afraid that the hospital will be demolished tonight. Lu Tingxiao's aura was so terrifying that even Jiang Mui's anger was suppressed. He coughed lightly and moved away from Lu Tingxiao. Just when everyone's eyes were on the ward, Xiao Bao, who was standing next to Lu Tingxiao, suddenly broke free from Lu Tingxiao's hand and quickly rushed into the ward. Like a wolf cub, the little girl snatched Ningxi's hand and hugged her leg tightly. Her beautiful big eyes were burning with anger as she stared at Su Yang on the sickbed. Holy shit. Xiao Bao, Lu Jingli was startled and was about to rush in when Lu Tingxiao raised his hand to stop him. Only then did Lu Jingli realize that if he went in, he wouldn't be able to explain himself. Ningxi was startled by Xiao Bao, who suddenly rushed over. "Ah, baby, why are you here?" She looked through the glass window on the door and seemed to see Lu Tingxiao and the others in the corridor outside. Xiao Bao raised his little head and looked at her. His eyes were red and soon, they became wet. Big drops of tears rolled down his cheeks. Ningxi panicked. "Hey, don't cry. What's wrong with you? Good girl, don't cry. Auntie will take you back now." Ningxi picked up Xiao Bao and was about to leave. Su Yang, who had been stunned on the sickbed, finally came to his senses and stopped her. "Xiaoxi, who is this child?" Chapter 216. Ningxi subconsciously pressed Xiaobao's face against her shoulder, patted him on the back, and answered casually, "A friend's child. I'm leaving. Take care of yourself. I'll help you contact Ning Shualuo later." After Ningxi left, Su Yang stared at the door in shock and doubt. What was wrong with that child? For a moment, he felt that the child's appearance was somewhat similar to that of Ningxi's. He even recalled the dead baby 5 years ago. If that child hadn't died, he would have been about this age. Damn it, just what nonsense was he thinking about? He was crazy. That child died 5 years ago. Yes. Dead. He must have died. It was impossible for him to have survived in that situation. Looking at Ningxi, who came out in less than 5 seconds, Lu Jingli couldn't help snapping his fingers. "Xiao Bao, well done." Ningxi saw Lu Tingxiao's expression and immediately knew that he was going to scold Xiao Bao, so she hurriedly protected him before he said anything. "Don't blame Xiao Bao. He's just a child. What does he know? Besides, he didn't disturb me." Lu Tingxiao looked helpless. "You spoil him too much." Although he was scolding her, there was no trace of anger on his face. Jiang Mui, who was at the side, could only watch helplessly as Lu Tingxiao immediately put on a tender and affectionate expression as soon as Ningxi came out. Lu Tingxiao's expression changed faster than flipping a book. Jiang Mui was shocked beyond words. "Hypocrite, too hypocritical. Who told you to always be so mean to Xiao Bao? I'm helping you." Ningxi touched Xiao Bao's head and a trace of sadness flashed across her eyes. If she didn't treat Xiao Bao well now, there would be no more chances in the future. After leaving the hospital, Ningxi hugged Xiao Bao in her arms and coaxed him for a while. The little fellow soon fell asleep. Lu Jingli finally couldn't hold it in for a long time. He glanced at Ningxi in the back seat through the rearview mirror and hurriedly asked, "Little 1111, you're using Brother Yang and emotional memories to kill me. What are you playing at? Are you trying to rekindle your relationship with that scumbag?" Jiang Mui, who was sitting in the passenger seat, sneered. "Rekindle my ass. I was almost fooled by her just now. She was playing the innocent girl again. Not only that, but he also fucking used a honey trap." Ningxi held her chin and raised her eyebrows in surprise. "Golden Retriever, you've grown up. You even noticed this." Lu Tingxiao, who was sitting beside Ningxi, looked cold. Just now, he could tell at a glance that Ningxi's attitude towards Su Yang was not sincere. What really made him angry was honey trap. She actually used it on someone other than him. By the way, I have to call Ning Shualuo. Ningxi was still holding Xiao Bao in her arms. She moved carefully and took out her phone. "Let me carry him." Lu Tingxiao helped carry Xiao Bao over. After the number was dialed, Ning Shualuo's sharp voice came from the other end of the phone. "Ningxi? Why are you calling me? Flaunting their prowess? Bitch." Are you happy now that you've seen me lose my reputation? Let me tell you, you're getting ahead of yourself. Do you think Brother Yang and Mom and Dad will believe your nonsense? But you're just a country bumpkin. Do you really think you're going to? When Ning Xueluo was almost done, Ningxi said quietly, Miss Ning. Let me remind you that I'm on speaker now, and Su Yang is right next to me. Chapter 217. Ning Xueluo was speechless. There was a long silence on the other end of the line, and then she suddenly hung up. It was obvious what Ning Xueluo's expression would be when she heard this and how she would hang up the phone in a panic. Fut! Little 1111, you're so bad. That woman must have been scared out of her wits by you. Lu Jingli's face was full of admiration. You call this bad? You're really inexperienced. I'll show you that I can be even worse today. Ningxi smiled and tapped on her phone a few times. The next second, the conversation between her and Ning Xueluo came through the phone. Yes, she had recorded it. She had originally planned to call Ning Xueluo in front of Su Yang and then turn on the speaker so that Su Yang could listen to it carefully. Because Xiaobao had to change her plan. Fortunately, the final result was not affected. Ningxi edited the recording and sent it to Su Yang. She sighed regretfully and said, It's a pity that this trick can only be used once. Ning Xueluo will definitely be wary of me if she talks to me again. However, it's enough to use it once. She had expected that Ning Xueluo would refuse to admit it. Today, she would completely plant a seed of doubt in Su Yang's heart. When that time came, she just had to wait for the dog to bite the dog. Lu Jingli shivered and said tremblingly, Little 1111, if I offend you in any way in the future, just tell me directly. I'll let you beat me up to vent your anger, but please don't do this to me. I'm so scared. Ningxi chuckled and said simply, Don't worry. For the sake of your brother, I won't hold it against you. Lu Jingli's eyes lit up when he heard this. Is my brother so important? Ningxi rolled her eyes at him. Of course. He's my boss and my benefactor. I'm willing to do anything for him. Hearing this answer, Lu Tingxiao narrowed his eyes. The light in his eyes flashed like a meteor, leaving only darkness. Although she had been very careful, he still clearly noticed the change in her attitude towards him after she came back tonight. From choosing Lu Jingli to accompany her to the hospital, to deliberately getting close to Su Yang, and even acting like she was scheming to make him reject her, to seemingly inadvertently reminding him of his identity and distancing herself from him. Just like how he had used the method of boiling a frog in warm water to make her accept him unknowingly, at this moment, she was using the same method to slowly distance herself from him. There was no doubt that she was a good student who applied what she had learned. He was caught in a trap of his own making. He clearly knew what she wanted to do, but he was helpless. Late at night, at the Lu residence, Ningxi lay on the big bed, counting the bleats in her head, but she still didn't feel sleepy. Thus, he picked up his phone and opened WeChat. After scrolling through her moments and daydreaming for a while, she typed a line of words, I could have tolerated the darkness if I had never seen the sun. But now, the sun made my loneliness even more desolate. This sentence came from a poem by the poetess Dickinson. For some reason, when she thought of it now, it seemed to fit her mood very well. The first to reply was, Lu Jingli, ouch, ouch, ouch. Everything is coming back to life. Spring is in full bloom. It's animals again. Ah, I can smell love. The corner of Ningxi's mouth twitched. Lu Jingli was too fast. Didn't he need to sleep in the middle of the night? To her surprise, Jiang Mui was still awake at this late hour. He commented, I'm so jealous that my teeth are about to fall off. Ningxi was about to scold Jiang Mui, but her expression suddenly tightened. She heard the door of her room being pushed open with a squeak. Chapter 218. Ningxi subconsciously put down her phone and held her breath. She wasn't vigilant or defensive, but she was nervous. Because she could tell that it was Lu Tingxiao's footsteps. Why was Lu Tingxiao looking for her at this time? It was 3:00 in the morning. The strangest thing was that with Lu Tingxiao's personality, he definitely wouldn't do something like coming in without knocking. Just as Ningxi's mind was in a mess, that familiar figure had already walked to the side of her bed. There was no light in her room, and there was no moon tonight, so the entire room was pitch black, and she could only see a vague shadow. That shadow just stood there quietly, not moving an inch. Ningxi's heart was about to jump out of her throat. Just as she was about to speak up to break this torturous silence, an idea flashed in her mind and she suddenly remembered something. Lu Tingxiao had sleepwalking. So she hurriedly swallowed the words that were about to leave her mouth, so as not to wake him up. Cough. But what exactly did he want to do? After about 5 seconds, Lu Tingxiao took another step forward and sat down on the edge of her bed. He lifted half of her blanket, and then laid down beside her. Ningxi. Moreover, this wasn't the end. The moment Lu Tingxiao laid down, his long arms reached out and pulled her into his arms. He hugged her tightly, as if hugging a pillow. Ningxi's cheek was forced to stick tightly to Lu Tingxiao's warm chest. Above her head was his steady breathing, her waist was his scorching palm, and her entire nose was filled with his cool scent mixed with a touch of cologne. Oh my God. This was simply crazy. Ningxi had already roared to the sky and ran 800 miles in her heart, but in reality, she could only endure until she almost suffered internal injuries. Thinking back to the time when Lu Tingxiao sleepwalked for the first time, she thought it must be because of what you think about during the day, you dream about at night. The next day, she even reminded Lu Tingxiao that he needed to find a woman. Now, she finally understood. She understood the true meaning of the phrase what you think about during the day, you dream about at night. So, who could tell her, what exactly should she do now? Could it be that she was waiting for Lu Tingxiao to leave again? In the past, when he didn't know anything, it was fine. But now, no matter what, it wasn't appropriate, right? Ningxi tried to move her body, trying to break free. In the end, she was panting and sweating, but someone still didn't move. She was afraid of waking him up, but she didn't dare to use too much force. Ningxi had no choice but to compromise. Sigh, forget it, I'll just sleep. Anyway, he wouldn't remember anything when he woke up. Outside the window, a cool breeze stirred the dark clouds. The moon peeked out from the clouds and shone its clear light through the window. The side of Lu Tingxiao's face appeared in front of her without warning. Ningxi's heart skipped a beat, and then it instantly beat like a drum. She was afraid that she would wake Lu Tingxiao up if she jumped too hard. Ningxi didn't know whether it was because of the beautiful moonlight or the man in front of her, but she couldn't help reaching out to touch the man's cheek. Lu Tingxiao. So no matter what she did now, he wouldn't know anything and wouldn't have any memories. Didn't that mean she could do whatever she wanted? This thought made the beast that was suppressed in the depths of her heart begin to stir. Ningxi gently touched the man's forehead, eyebrows, nose, and finally stopped at his thin lips. Chapter 219. Then, Ningxi slowly leaned forward and stopped when she was only 1 centimeter away from the man's lips. To kiss or not to kiss, that was the question. Isn't it bad to take advantage of someone when they're down? But you're the one who came to my bed. You can't blame me, right? Besides, you even bit me the last time. What the fuck? What the hell am I doing? I've really lost my mind. I've lost my mind. Ningxi finally laid back down obediently after muttering for a long time. The man's stiff body finally relaxed. At the same time, his heart was filled with disappointment. The feeling of being teased halfway was simply. However, in the next second, the girl in his arms, who had given up and was lying down obediently, suddenly moved. Then, 2 warm and soft lips pressed against his lips, catching him off guard. The slippery tip of her tongue licked his lips, and her teeth tried to take a few bites. She even boldly tried to pry open his switch. Even someone as calm as Lu Tingxiao almost lost his composure. This feeling of being forcefully kissed and being unable to take back the initiative was even more miserable than the former. The girl's kissing skills were really bad. She was just licking and biting randomly, but it instantly ignited his lower abdomen. After the kiss, Ningxi wiped her mouth and finally lay back down in satisfaction. She muttered to herself, so what if I'm dizzy? It's such a good opportunity, it'd be a waste not to kiss. At least I won't have any regrets in this life. Lu Tingxiao did not know whether to be angry or amused when he heard this. A kiss and you'll have no regrets in this life. My dear, your goal in life is too low. What I want to give you, and more, After kissing Lu Tingxiao, Ningxi could not fall asleep even more. She reached for her handheld and browsed through the entertainment news for a while. Just as she expected, Ning Xueluo immediately released a statement and pushed all the blame to her assistant, Kui Keijing, and placed herself as the victim. However, Golden Era was no pushover. Liang Feixing was especially good at controlling the flow of public opinion. Under Liang Feixing's public relations, Ning Xueluo's statement did not have much of an effect. Most people thought that Ning Xueluo was deliberately shirking responsibility. She was just a small assistant. It was unreasonable for her to take revenge on you just because you scolded her. Some people thought that Ning Xueluo wanted to avenge Jiao Qingqing because she was close to her, while others thought that Ning Xueluo was jealous of Ningxi, who was prettier than her. Some even guessed that Su Yang liked Ningxi, so Ning Xueluo was so eager to get rid of Ningxi. In short, the gentle and generous image that Ning Xueluo had created on a daily basis had suffered a serious blow this time. Other than that, the fans were most concerned about the filming of Under the Heavens in the future. This was also what Ningxi was most concerned about. The company was already handling it, but there was no definite answer yet. I'll give Lin Jiji a call tomorrow. After reading the entertainment news, Ningxi logged into Weibo again. She was surprised to find that her Weibo followers had increased greatly after this incident. There were many passers-by who were encouraging and comforting her. Ningxi thought for a while, then wrote a Weibo post. Chapter 220. Instead of caring about others' betrayal and unkindness, it's better to focus on your own dignity and beauty. Those who can't kill us will make us stronger. There were many night owls on Weibo, and the number of reposts and likes on her post kept increasing. Less than 5 minutes after the post was posted, Jiang Mui also reposted it and added a sentence of support. Her fans were shouting excitedly. The couple had actually entered the same company in real life. Wouldn't it be more likely for something to happen between them? To Ningxi's surprise, among the popular comments under her Weibo post, in addition to those who cared about her and gossiped about her and Jiang Mui, the most popular comment was, "Goddess, I saw Lu Tingxiao repost something related to you last time. Have you seen Boss Lu in Shengshe Entertainment? Have you talked to him? Is he handsome? Is he handsome? Ask for photos. Ask for welfare." Ningxi was speechless. Have I seen Boss Lu? Of course I've seen it before. He's lying next to me, you stupid human beings. Send photos. Forget it then. Of course, a prince should keep it for himself. Ningxi murmured as she continued to scroll, and the result was that she became more and more energetic. Alas, she shouldn't have scrolled through Weibo when she couldn't sleep. What she needed now was an advanced mathematics book. While she was worrying, she suddenly received a call. The caller ID showed that it was Jiang Mui. Fortunately, she had turned on silent mode just now. Ningxi answered the phone in a low voice. "Hello, what's up? I was going to ask you that. Why are you not sleeping at night?" Ningxi rolled her eyes. "I'll say the same thing to you, Tilda. Why are you speaking in such a low voice?" Jiang Mui asked suspiciously. "It's so late. Do you want me to yell at you?" "No," Jiang Mui said confidently, as if he were Sherlock Holmes. "There's someone next to you." Ningxi cursed in her heart, and then said confidently, "I'm sleeping with Little Bun." "What's wrong with that? Do you have to be so surprised?" "Really?" Ningxi suddenly felt the hand on her waist tighten, and she was almost dazed. She answered hurriedly, "What else? Could it be Lu Tingxiao lying next to me? Are you suffering from paranoia?" Jiang Mui curled his lips and felt that he had thought too much. "I'm just asking. By the way." Ningxi suddenly remembered something. She frowned and asked, "How's the matter at home?" Jiang Mui was silent for a while and then replied, "It's almost settled. Just after I met you last night, the business partner who refused to budge suddenly relented." What a coincidence. In other words, it was obvious that Lu Tingxiao had guessed something. That's good. Ningxi breathed a sigh of relief. "Are you free tomorrow?" Jiang Mui snorted. "What? I'm very busy." "Oh, then forget it." Ningxi was about to hang up the phone. "Wait a minute, but I'll need it tomorrow." "What can I do for you?" Jiang Mui asked hurriedly. Ningxi said leisurely, tomorrow is the beginning of autumn. The weather is so good and we don't have to film. Do you want to go out for a walk? What? Jiang Mui almost thought that he had heard wrongly. After all, since returning to China, she had been avoiding him like a scourge. You. What are you plotting? Why do you have so many questions? Forget it. I'll go. Chapter 221. Late at night. As the girl breathed deeply, the man finally opened his eyes slowly. His deep eyes were cold and calm. Under the moonlight, he looked at the girl's sleeping face and kissed her lips gently. From the first time he saw her, he had wanted to lock her up at home, lock her in bed, and not let anyone look at her. Only he could look at her, and only she could look at him. Even he was surprised at how he had been able to endure until now. After the light kiss, the man pried open the girl's teeth and entwined his tongue with hers until the girl frowned and almost woke up because she couldn't breathe. After a while, he finally left. He touched the girl's cheek and sighed inaudibly. Ningxi, don't test my endurance anymore. I can't guarantee how long I can endure, and I can't guarantee what I will do. The next morning. Ningxi didn't know when she fell asleep last night. Anyway, when she woke up, Lu Tingxiao was not in bed. Because he slept late, it was almost 9 o'clock when he woke up. There were a lot of missed calls from Jiang Mui on her phone. He was scolding her on WeChat for standing him up again. Ningxi scratched her head and replied to Jiang Mui's message asking him to come over. Then she washed up and went downstairs. Lu Tingxiao went to work and Xiaobao didn't disturb her sleep. He was sitting on the sofa and reading. Baby, come here. Ningxi waved at Xiaobao. Xiaobao immediately put down the book and ran over. Ningxi picked up the little boy. How about I take you out to play today? Xiaobao was pleasantly surprised and nodded hard. Just then, a car horn sounded at the gate. Ningxi took Xiaobao out. Jiang Mui was stunned when he saw Ningxi. She was wearing a ponytail, overalls, a white t-shirt with cartoon prints on it, and a shoulder bag. She looked like a student. Let's go. Ningxi was about to get into the car with Xiaobao. Jiang Mui stared at Xiaobao next to her. Don't tell me you're taking him on a date. Ningxi rolled her eyes at him. Who's going on a date with you? I'm taking Xiaobao out for a picnic. Jiang Mui stared at her. Then why did you call me here? Of course I'm driving. I've thought about it, and you're the only one who's free today. The Lu group was negotiating a big deal again, and Lu Tingxiao and Lu Jingli were busy during this time. Jiang Mui was speechless. Are you leaving or not? If we don't leave now, the sun is going to set. Ningxi urged. Jiang Mui got off the car. Aren't you afraid that we'll be recognized? Can't I just disguise myself a little? Jiang Mui was a little startled and said uneasily, pretend what? A family of 3? In your dreams. I'm the elder sister, Xiaobao is the younger brother. As for you, what am I? Dad. Bah. You're the driver. Jiang Mui, remember to go to the supermarket first. We also need to buy barbecue grills, meat, and drinks. Got it, Jiang Mui replied with a gloomy face. This bastard, he only knew how to scam him. After shopping in the supermarket, Ningxi found a secluded riverside and hummed a song while teaching Xiaobao how to skewer meat. Jiang Mui also sang while fishing. It's a sunny day today, but you brought your brother here. When I see his face, my mood immediately turns gloomy, as if someone has poured salt on my wound. Ningxi put her hands on her hips. Enough. Sing a happy song for me. The weather is so sunny today, and the scenery is so beautiful, so beautiful. Chapter 222. Jiang Mui was listless. He didn't wake up until it was time to eat. At least Ningxi's cooking skills were excellent. They were both barbecuing, but her barbecue was too delicious. Xiaobao, who had always ignored everyone but Ningxi, probably saw that he was having a hard time, even personally handed him a skewer of mutton. Jiang Mui was flattered. And he found that Ningxi was not exaggerating at all. This boy was so cute when he was well behaved. No wonder Ningxi was so nice to him. Really, this was too unfair. It was like a genetic mutation. How could Lu Tingxiao have such a cute son? Jiang Mui gnawed on the meat as he thought about it. Although he was going to be a coolie this time, no one knew about it. Lu Tingxiao showed off their affection in the WeChat moments every day. It was time for him to show it off. Jiang Mui chuckled to himself. He hid aside and took a photo of Ningxi's back with his mobile phone. Then he proudly uploaded the photo to his WeChat moments. What the fuck? Autumn outing. With Lu Tingxiao's eyesight, he could definitely recognize who it was. Very soon, the group of scoundrels started to comment sad smiley wow. The girl is so hot. I can tell she's beautiful just by looking at her back. Jiang Mui, you're so disloyal. Bring your sister here for us to see. Come on. Come on. Don't be stingy. Why does she look so young? Is she an adult? Jiang Mui, are you doing anything illegal? After a while, Lu Jingli also appeared. Wow. The barbecue looks delicious. And chicken wings and grilled fish. Little bastard, how could you not call your uncle to eat delicious food? Lu Jingli's focus was really different from ordinary people. After waiting for a long time, the person he was waiting for finally appeared. The latest message showed that Lu Tingxiao had just replied to him. Jiang Mui hurriedly clicked on it to see what he had replied. But when he saw it clearly, his face darkened. Lu Tingxiao replied, "Don't let Xiaobao eat too much. He's a little overweight recently." Damn it. Xiaobao. How did Lu Tingxiao know that Xiaobao was here? Jiang Mui looked at the photo he had sent over and finally found the problem. In the photo, Xiaobao's figure appeared in the reflection of the river. Damn it, his eyesight was way too good. Jiang Mui failed to show off and ran back like a defeated rooster. Then he saw Ningxi on the phone. "Who are you calling?" Jiang Mui asked casually. "Big sis Gigi tilde Ning," she replied. After getting a little more familiar with her, Ningxi decisively changed the way she addressed her from Sister Lin to Sister Gigi, which was more intimate. Jiang Mui took a sip of juice. "What do you mean by straight and curved?" "My manager, Lin Gigi. It's the Ganoderma lucidum, okay?" As soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Mui spat out all the juice he had just drunk. "Who did you say?" "Lin Gigi, Leng Manyun's manager. Didn't you see my press conference the other day? Do you have to be so slow?" Ningxi looked at him with disdain. "Fuck. In any case, I already know the result. Why the hell am I still watching?" "Lin Gigi, why did it have to be Lin Gigi?" After knowing that Ningxi had signed with Golden Era, he had been annoyed and had only casually asked about the situation. Who knew that Lu Tingxiao would plant such a huge bomb in his head? Ningxi was puzzled. "Why can't it be Lin Gigi? Why are you so agitated? Could it be your ex-girlfriend?" Jiang Mui, seeing Jiang Mui's strange silence, Ningxi snapped her fingers. "Ayo, my little brain is so smart. Did I guess it correctly? Don't talk to me. I need some time alone." Chapter 223. Jiang Mui was defeated in this round. Strictly speaking, as soon as the bugle sounded, he found that he had stepped on a landmine and couldn't move forward anymore. The enemy was too cruel. Ningxi sounded as if she couldn't accept it. "I really didn't expect that someone like Sister Gigi would be so blind." Jiang Mui stared at her. "What are you talking about? What do you mean by blind? You are the one who is blind. Even Su Yang fell in love with her." Ningxi sighed. "Alas, it's all because we were young and couldn't see clearly. You." Jiang Mui was so angry that he didn't know what to say. At last, he said angrily, "Now you know how cunning Lu Tingxiao is? In order to guard against me, he even resorted to such shameless means." He was about to see Ningxi's regretful expression, but he saw her holding her cheek and smiling like a love-struck fool. Mr. Boss is really wise and skillful. He plans ahead and wins the battle from 1,000 miles away. Jiang Mui's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. "Ningxi, you are really hopeless." Ningxi suddenly leaned over and said maliciously, "Hey, what's going on between you and Sister Gigi? From your expression, it seems that it's not as simple as an ex-girlfriend." Jiang Mui couldn't be so afraid of an ex-girlfriend. "Mind your own business," Jiang Mui said grumpily and then asked hesitantly, What did she say to you on the phone just now? Ningxi shrugged. Nothing. She just told me that the screenwriter is revising the script and the shooting will start in about half a month. Brother Ming also told me that Meng Chang'e and son Huanqing will be more prominent after the revision. As for whether Ning Xueluo and Zhao Xizhou will be replaced or not, I'm not sure. But since Lu Tingxiao is so protective of you, I guess he will. Jiang Mui said bitterly. Ningxi shook her head. Wrong. If Lu Tingxiao really did it for my sake, he definitely won't change the actress. That's because defeating Ning Xueluo with my strength in the show and making her my foil is the best way for me to take revenge. As soon as she finished her words, a piece of entertainment news popped up on Ningxi's cell phone. She had subscribed to some important entertainment news and every time there was new news, it would pop up automatically. Ningxi couldn't help but smile after reading it. She looked like a young girl in love. Jiang Mui was shocked by her expression and took a look at her suspiciously. The entertainment news then showed that Shengshe Entertainment had just made an announcement. Lu Group had replaced the funds that Ning's International Group and Starlight Entertainment had withdrawn from the project, and Shengshe Entertainment had taken over the project. Out of consideration for the filming schedule, none of the original characters would be changed. Looking at the tacit understanding between Ningxi and Lu Tingxiao, Jiang Mui felt suffocated. I think you are completely in love with him and don't know it. You like Lu Tingxiao so much. Can you really resist being with him? Ningxi lay on the grass, picked up a green foxtail grass and put it in her mouth. Who says we have to be together just because we like each other? Because there were so few people who liked to be together. How many people could walk to the end? This state is already very good. The best result would be for them to return to being friends and confidants. Even if the worst result was for them to forget each other, there was nothing bad about it. Memories could forever remain in their most beautiful moments. Chapter 224. Half a month's vacation couldn't be wasted. The next day, Ningxi took Xiaobao out to have fun again. Miss Shi, would you like to wait for young master to come back from work? The old steward couldn't stand it anymore and tried to be a matchmaker. Ningxi scratched her head. Forget it. He's so busy. We can go by ourselves. How could she wait for Lu Tingxiao to come back from work when he wasn't here, then let them follow us? Young master said that we can't be careless about young master's safety. The old steward pointed to the 3 bodyguards in black and sunglasses next to him. It was a reasonable request. Ningxi had to agree. Then she wouldn't have to ask Jiang Mui to do the hard work. Why did she feel that Lu Tingxiao did it on purpose? Today, Ningxi planned to take Xiaobao to buy toys and clothes. Of course, because she hadn't started work yet, she didn't have a salary yet. She still used Lu Tingxiao's card. When she was shopping in the mall, she accidentally found a newly opened children's clothing store that had very fashionable and cute clothes, so she completely started buying. Baby, this one looks good too. Go in and try it on. Xiaobao nodded and went into the fitting room. Ningxi was waiting for Xiaobao to change when she suddenly saw 2 familiar figures passing by. Ning Xueluo was holding Su Yang's hand intimately. They were talking while shopping. Wow, the children's clothes in this store are so cute. Brother Yang, let's go in and have a look. It's Fang Lin's son's birthday next month. Let's buy him a set of clothes as a gift. Okay. Su Yang answered with a straight face. Have you seen Fang Lin's son? He's white and fat, so cute. Brother Yang, if we have a son in the future, will he be as cute? Ning Xueluo asked shyly. Probably. Su Yang was obviously not in a good mood and answered perfunctorily. Ning Xueluo was disappointed. Brother Yang, are you still mad at me? I've already publicly apologized on Weibo, and you've heard Cai Jing's explanation. As for that phone call, I was really angry because you suddenly ignored me, and I was a little drunk. I regret it so much. Xiaoxi, Ning Xueluo was explaining when she suddenly heard Ning Xi's name from Su Yang's mouth. She followed Su Yang's gaze and saw Ning Xi standing next to a row of clothes racks. Sister. Ning Xue's eyes were moist. She immediately rushed over and grabbed her hand. Sister, I've finally met you. I've been wanting to apologize to you in person, But you've been ignoring me and not picking up my calls these past few days. I don't even know where you live. When everyone asked me, I said that I didn't believe that you did it. In the end, it was a misunderstanding. I knew you wouldn't do such a thing. Although the truth is out now, the harm to you has already been done. Although I am also a victim, this matter started because of me. You were implicated by me, so I am sorry. I am really sorry. You can hit me or scold me, as long as you can calm down. Ning Xueluo's words were sincere and natural. It even seemed that Ningxi was the one who bullied her. Ningxi didn't make sarcastic remarks like before, but glanced helplessly and tiredly at Su Yang. Chapter 225. That look made Su Yang's heart ache as if it had been bitten by aphids. He hurriedly pulled Ning Xueluo over. Xueluo, calm down. Ning Xueluo didn't notice Ningxi's little movement. Her tears fell down. Brother Yang, please help me talk to my sister. You know how painful and self-reproachful I have been these days. I really hope she can forgive me. Otherwise, Su Yang looked at the woman in his arms who was crying so hard and finally softened. Xiaoxi, I'm sorry. I really blame myself for this. Ning Xueluo gave a smug smile. She seemed to be crying even harder, but she was secretly looking forward to Ningxi's outburst. In the past, every time she asked for forgiveness, Ningxi would be very excited and say the worst things, which made Su Yang hate her more and more. This time, it would be the same. Ningxi pinched her eyebrows tiredly and then sighed. Forget it, Ning Xueluo. I've seen and received your apology. Since it's a misunderstanding, forget it. I forgive you. What did you say? Ning Xueluo's face instantly changed and she couldn't believe it. Su Yang was very relieved. Xueluo, can you rest assured now? Ning Xueluo couldn't say a word and her face turned red. On the other side, the door of the fitting room opened and Xiaobao came out after changing clothes. Ningxi's hypocritical mask immediately flashed a trace of warmth. She walked over with a smile and picked up Xiaobao. Then she said to the shop assistant, I want all the clothes you tried just now. Just wear the one you're wearing. Okay, I'll write out the order for you right away, the shop assistant replied with a bright smile. Ningxi nodded to Su Yang to say goodbye and then directly left with Xiaobao in her arms. After the bodyguard in black paid the bill, he carried the bags and followed them. Ning Xueluo was stunned by this scene, and then a look of extreme excitement appeared on her face. Is what Fanglin and Shenxian said true? Last time they told me they saw Ningxi buying children's clothes in the shopping mall, but I didn't believe it. Sister, she really became a rich old man's mistress and gave birth to a son for him. It was a pity that Ningxi left so fast that she didn't see the child's face clearly, nor did she have time to take photos. Xueluo, don't talk nonsense. Hearing this, Su Yang immediately interrupted her with a serious face and looked in the direction where Ningxi left with a complicated look. I've seen this child once. Xiaoxi said that he's just a friend's son. Ning Xueluo hurriedly said, Brother Yang, you're too naive. How could she treat her friend's son so well? Look, she has a bodyguard with her, and she's using a black card. There aren't many nannies and bodyguards in such a family. Do they need her to take care of the child? A trace of struggle and hesitation appeared between Su Yang's brows, and then he seemed to have thought of something, so he said firmly, Xueluo, in my heart, Xiaoxi is my sister. If you insult her, you insult me. Don't ever let me hear such words again. Other people can doubt her, but we can't, understand? Ning Xueluo had never expected that Su Yang's attitude towards Ningxi would change so much after this incident. Damn it. What did Ningxi do to him in the hospital that day? Su Yang suddenly trusted her so much that he didn't even listen to her. Chapter 226. I'm sorry, Brother Yang. I know I'm wrong. I won't do it again. Ning Xueluo gritted her teeth and said. It seemed that this incident had aroused the guilt in Su Yang's heart, so he no longer suspected Ningxi easily. But so what? Since he didn't believe what others said, he would believe it when he saw it with his own eyes. It was so easy to find Ningxi's flaws. She and Jiang Mui had been having an affair before and now they had a child. It was getting more and more interesting, but she had to bear with it for the time being and wait for Su Yang's guilt to fade. Downstairs, Ningxi was about to go home with Xiaobao when she found the car waiting at the door was gone. Hey, where's our car? Ningxi looked confused. It couldn't have been stolen, right? But how could it be? There was a driver in the car. The bodyguard behind her answered, Miss, our car has been driven away. Our boss just called and said he would pick us up after work. What? Ningxi was confused and said hurriedly, well, let's go by ourselves. What if he has to work overtime or is delayed by something? Before he could finish his sentence, a black Maybach stopped in front of him. The window of the back seat rolled down slowly, revealing an expressionless face. Done shopping? Ningxi nodded stiffly. She had been getting up late and going to bed early these days and tried to avoid contact with Lu Tingxiao. Although they lived under the same roof, she hadn't seen him for 2 whole days. Go home? Yes. Ningxi opened the door and carried Xiaobao into the car. Then she opened the door of the passenger seat and wanted to sit in the front. However, one of the bodyguards came over in fear and trepidation. Miss, the passenger seat is not safe. I'd better sit in the back. It's very spacious. Okay. Ningxi resigned again. After getting into the car, Ningxi sat as close as possible to the side of the car even though there was a steamed bun between them. Lu Tingxiao's attitude was the same as usual. He had a laptop on his lap and was typing quickly on the keyboard, concentrating on his work. Ningxi heaved a sigh of relief. As a result, 10 minutes later, Lu Tingxiao seemed to have finished his work. He put down the computer, put the sleepy Xiaobao on his lap, put the computer on the other side of him, and naturally moved toward Ningxi. The familiar cool breath suddenly invaded to a safe distance, and Ningxi's hair stood on end. She subconsciously leaned against the door, and her face almost touched the window. Ningxi. Lu Tingxiao's voice rang in her ears. Ah, what's wrong? Ningxi turned her head. Lu Tingxiao looked at her and said unhurriedly, are you avoiding me? Huh? How? How could this be? Why should I hide from you? It's just that there are burning clouds outside the window. It's quite beautiful. I'm just looking at the scenery, just looking at the scenery. Ningxi moved back with a whoosh. However, at this moment, the driver suddenly made a sharp turn, and Ningxi's body was forced to fall towards Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao frowned slightly. He reached out an arm to protect her shoulder and did not let go. Sorry, boss, a car suddenly cut in. Cheng Feng, the assistant who was driving, reported. Lu Tingxiao, okay, drive slowly. Go back and ask for a raise. Cheng Feng, yes. Ningxi, from the butler to the bodyguards to the assistants, why did she have the illusion that everyone was helping Lu Tingxiao? Chapter 227. After returning home in the evening, Ningxi continued to use losing weight as an excuse. She didn't even have dinner and immediately went into the room. She was really thankful that her weight had soared with little bun these days, which gave her such a good excuse. After a while, there was a knock on the door. Fortunately, it was not Lu Tingxiao's footsteps. Ningxi had just taken a bath and walked over to open the door while drying her hair. She saw WN standing at the door, holding a tray of food in her hand. She was obviously stunned by Ningxi's appearance after taking a bath. The girl in front of her was so beautiful. Her skin was white and rosy after taking a bath, which was even more attractive. Even a woman like her couldn't help but be attracted to her. No wonder young master, WN quickly shook her head and said, Miss Xiaoxi, young master asked me to bring you some food. Although it's important to keep fit, you can't starve. These are all low-fat and low-calorie food. It's okay to eat a little. Okay, thank you, WAN. Looking at the lovely little maid, Ningxi's tension eased a lot. WN, you changed your hairstyle. It's so cute. It suits you very well. Thank you, Miss Xiaoxi. WN touched her hair happily and then said hesitantly, Miss Xiaoxi, you are really nice. In fact, I think you and young master are very compatible. It would be great if you could be our young master's wife. Otherwise, if other scheming women come in, we must be miserable. Ningxi, why did the little maid start to help her? Please let her go. Then WN knocked on the door again and brought her a glass of milk. When the knocking sounded for the third time, Ningxi was leaning on the balcony railing to enjoy the wind. Thinking it was WN again, she directly said, "Please come in." However, when the footsteps got closer and closer, she found something was wrong. Turning around, she saw Lu Tingxiao's face close at hand. Lu Tingxiao. Ningxi subconsciously clenched the railing. "What's the matter?" Lu Tingxiao didn't speak but just stood quietly in front of her and looked at her. The girl in front of him was wearing a long palatial nightgown that reached her ankles. Her hair, which had just been dried and was still slightly damp, fluttered in the night wind. Her cheeks were still red from the evaporation of the steam, and there was a hint of shock and wariness in her bright eyes. Just as Ningxi's scalp was going numb from his stare, Lu Tingxiao finally said, "Ningxi, Ningxi." "Huh. Lu Tingxiao, I missed you very much." Ningxi's eyes widened. She almost thought that she was hallucinating. "Ahem, what?" Lu Tingxiao reached out his hand and gently picked up a strand of hair beside her ear. His voice was ethereal like the rising cold air in an ice pool. "It seems that I haven't seen you for a long time. It had only been 2 days, okay? Bah, that's not the point." The main point was that Lu Tingxiao said he missed her. He directly said that he missed her. This development wasn't right. She must be hallucinating, right? It must be. However, just as Ningxi kept finding justifiable excuses for Lu Tingxiao's behavior, Lu Tingxiao took a step forward, put one arm around her waist, gently pulled her towards him, and held her in his arms. At the same time, he also put his other arm around her waist, leaned over, and gently buried his head in her neck in an extremely tired and sentimental posture. Ningxi. Chapter 228. Oh my god. What was going on? Ningxi's brain felt like it had been invaded by a virus. Her first reaction when she finally woke up was to push him away. However, Lu Tingxiao tightened his arms and said in a pitiful voice, "Don't move, okay? Let me hug you for a while." Ningxi was speechless. How was she supposed to respond to this request? Damn it, what was going on with Lu Tingxiao? Although she had been deliberately avoiding him for the past 2 days, she had been careful not to alert him. Why did he suddenly? 10 seconds passed, 30 seconds passed, 1 minute passed, 3 minutes passed. What happened to the promise of falling in a while? He was too untrustworthy. Just when Ningxi couldn't take it anymore, Lu Tingxiao let go of her. "Sorry, I forgot myself." Ningxi swallowed. Heh, it's okay. Damn it, she almost had a heart attack, and in the end, it was over with just one sentence. What was worse was that she couldn't even say no. Lu Tingxiao looked at the girl's aggrieved expression, and a gleam of light flashed across his smiling eyes. "Go to bed early, good night." Heh, good night, you too, good night my ass. She didn't need to sleep tonight. The next morning, Ningxi, who had insomnia all night, hid in bed and didn't dare to get up. Finally, she secretly called WAN. "Has your young master gone to work yet?" "Not yet. But I see that he's quite busy. Ever since he got up and went downstairs, his phone hasn't stopped ringing." Assistant Cheng also came over in a hurry. "He seems to be asking when he's leaving. And then young master still hasn't left. He's still downstairs. I don't know what he's waiting for." Ningxi was speechless. It looked like she couldn't avoid it. Ningxi took several deep breaths and adjusted her mentality. She took out the indestructible mask and went downstairs with a calm and natural expression. Lu Tingxiao was sitting calmly on the sofa, while his special assistant, Cheng Feng, was holding a large pile of documents. His face was filled with anxiety, but he didn't dare to rush Lu Tingxiao. Ningxi stretched herself as she went downstairs. When she looked at Lu Tingxiao downstairs, she deliberately made a surprised expression. "Hey, Lu Tingxiao, it's so late. Why haven't you gone to work yet?" When Lu Tingxiao heard the girl's voice, he raised his eyes and looked at her. His gaze was like wool, wrapping around her gently. "I'm waiting for you," Lu Tingxiao said. Ningxi was stunned. Why did she suddenly realize that she couldn't talk to Lu Tingxiao properly? Just when Ningxi was in a daze, Lu Tingxiao had got up and walked towards her. Ningxi instinctively wanted to dodge, but the man's gaze seemed to have an invisible force that froze her in place, making her unable to move. A moment later, Lu Tingxiao had already walked in front of her, his broad palm stroking her hair. "If I don't wait for you now, I won't be able to see you for the whole day." Ningxi remained in a daze. "I'm going to work," Lu Tingxiao said as he leaned over and planted a kiss on her forehead. Ningxi. She was completely dead. Cheng Feng, who was behind her, looked as if he had been blinded. Then he blushed and averted his gaze. It was terrible. Not only had he almost gone crazy in the morning, he had also been abused. Chapter 229. Even after Lu Tingxiao had left for a long time, Ningxi was still standing there in a daze. Her fingers subconsciously touched her forehead where he had just kissed her, and the burning feeling continued. Although it was just a kiss on the forehead, and she had even secretly kissed him before, this was the first time they had kissed each other while both of them were sober. At this moment, Ningxi finally understood. Lu Tingxiao must have discovered her strategy long ago, so he had changed his strategy. It would have been fine if he had continued to pretend as before, but if he had simply stopped hiding and turned the dark into the light, what would she do? Damn. She was doomed. She really couldn't beat him. If she was really forced to that point, there would only be one result, parting on bad terms, or even worse. Ningxi was flustered when she suddenly felt someone tugging at her trouser leg. She looked down and saw Xiaobao looking up at her. Xiaobao. Ningxi saw a watercolor painting in Xiaobao's hand and said in surprise, "You finished it so quickly?" Xiaobao nodded shyly and then looked at her expectantly. Ningxi's future plans were all about accompanying Xiaobao. She had arranged today's schedule yesterday. She would take Xiaobao to fly a kite, and she would do it herself. After seeing Xiaobao's painting, Ningxi was a little surprised. This is, except for herself and Xiaobao, Xiaobao rarely painted portraits, and there were never people in his landscapes. But this time, Ningxi found that there were 3 people in his painting. There were white clouds floating in the vast sky, and there were 3 people sitting on the clouds, a man and a woman, and a little boy in the middle. It was still an abstract painting, but from the characteristics, Ningxi could still recognize at a glance that the people in the painting were her, Lu Tingxiao, and Xiaobao. Xiaobao had always disliked Lu Tingxiao. Even if he painted, he would only paint her or the 2 of them, and never Lu Tingxiao. This was the first time that Xiaobao had taken Lu Tingxiao with him. Ningxi was slightly stunned, but soon recovered. She took Xiaobao's hand and said, "Let's go and make a kite with him. Grandfather Butler should have prepared the bamboo strips to make the skeleton for us." Xiaobao nodded, but looked a little disappointed. Ningxi accompanied Xiaobao to fly a kite for a whole day, and she even cooked in the evening. For the past 2 days, she had taken Xiaobao out to eat, and they would come back very late. As soon as they came back, they would go into the room. Now it seemed that this trick had failed, and there was no need to continue. She had just finished cooking when Lu Jingli, that fellow's nose was like a dog's. He followed the smell and ran over, wagging his tail. "Wow, it's all my favorite food, sister-in-law." "Bah, cough, cough, Xiao 1111, I've been waiting for you to cook again." Ningxi glanced at Lu Jingli speechlessly. Did this guy just accidentally call her sister-in-law? "Go ask your brother to come down for dinner." "Oh, okay." Lu Jingli hurriedly ran away. At the same time, his heart was filled with doubts. Just now, he had accidentally let it slip. He was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. Why didn't Ningxi react? Did he not hear it clearly? At the dining table, Lu Jingli's keen intuition told him that something was wrong with the 2 of them. Something's wrong, something's wrong. Lu Jingli bit his chopsticks, moved closer to his brother's ear, and whispered, "Brother, did you do something to Xiao 1111? Why does she look so afraid of you? She doesn't even dare to look at you." Chapter 230. Nothing. Lu Tingxiao replied. There was nothing strange on his expressionless face. "Is there something wrong with my 6th sense? That's impossible." Lu Jingli scratched his head in confusion. Finally, the meal was over. Ningxi felt that this meal was more tiring than fighting a war. She had to be alert at all times. After the meal, Ningxi immediately stood up to clean up the dishes. I'm going to wash the dishes. Lu Jingli swept away the last piece of sweet and sour pork ribs on the plate and said with puffed cheeks, let me do it. It's okay, I'll do it. Ningxi rushed to do the work. If she didn't find something to do, she would go crazy. Lu Jingli glanced at Lu Tingxiao next to him and said in a hurry, you've worked so hard to cook. How can I let you do the dishes? I eat the most, so of course I'll do it. Lu Jingli gave his brother a look to ask for credit. However, Lu Tingxiao glanced at him carelessly and said, let Ningxi do it. Ah! Lu Jingli was shocked. Did the sun rise from the west today? How could the crazy man who protected his wife let Ningxi do the dishes? This was not scientific. When Lu Jingli was puzzled, Lu Tingxiao looked at him and said quietly, after all, you are a guest. Lu Jingli's jaw dropped as he pointed at his own face. What? I am a guest. In other words, he was saying that Ningxi was his family, wasn't he? So he became a guest. Ningxi's cheeks turned red, and she held her forehead with a desperate expression. Finally, she ran upstairs. Xiaobao looked at Aunt Xiaoxi, who suddenly ran away with a confused face. Although he didn't know what happened to Aunt Xiaoxi, he knew that Papa bullied her, so he glared at Lu Tingxiao unhappily and then followed up with his short legs. Lu Jingli, who was caught off guard, stared at Ningxi's back and was speechless. Brother, is this what you mean by you didn't do anything? Even a tough girl like 1111 was teased by you and ran away with her face covered. I knew my sixth sense would not be wrong. I say, what the hell are you trying to do? I'm so careful every day, afraid that I'll expose you. How did you suddenly become so bold and unrestrained? You should at least let me know so that I know how to cooperate with you in the future. Lu Jingli muttered for a long time before Lu Tingxiao replied with 3 words, go wash the dishes. With that, she turned around and went upstairs. Lu Jingli, he was beaten black and blue and almost vomited blood, but in the end, he was still the one doing the dishes. Using him to throw him away after showing off their affection? Where was humanity? What about justice? Do you still have any brotherly love? In the quiet night, Ningxi lies on the bed with her eyes wide open. It had already been a few hours, but his heart was still beating at an abnormal rate. What the hell? She was someone who had been through a lot, yet she was so flustered just because of a man's words. She was like a teenage girl who had no love experience at all. She did not dare to imagine what the days ahead would be like. No, she couldn't continue to wait for death like this. At this time, with a click, the clock on the wall pointed to 12 o'clock in the morning. Ningxi got up and began to rummage through the cabinets. Chapter 231. After rummaging for a while, Ningxi changed into a silver sequined camisole, black tight leather pants, and 12-centimeter high heels. Then, she put on smoky makeup that even her mother wouldn't recognize. Cinderella put on a gorgeous dress at midnight and drove a pumpkin carriage to the palace to flirt with the prince. As for her, she dressed up as a little goblin and went to a nightclub in the middle of the night to annoy the devil. Sigh, Lu Tingxiao had been busy these 2 days. He shouldn't be asleep at this time, right? Ningxi ran to the balcony and looked in the direction of the study. Sure enough, the light in Lu Tingxiao's study was still on. So she decisively ran to knock on the door. Well, I'll try to blind him later. Dong, dong, dong. She knocked on the door 3 times. After a moment, steady footsteps came from behind the door. Then, the door opened. When Lu Tingxiao saw the person outside the door, he was startled. I'm going out for a drink with a friend. I came to tell you. Ningxi said, looking expectantly at Lu Tingxiao's reaction. Lu Tingxiao's surprise only lasted for a moment. He nodded as if he hadn't seen her exaggerated makeup. Okay, have fun. Then he asked, do you need me to ask the driver to take you? Ningxi's face darkened. No need. I'll go by bike. She took a deep breath, pulled herself together, and was about to leave when Lu Tingxiao, who was sitting at the desk, suddenly walked towards her. What did he want? Ningxi subconsciously took a step back, but she still couldn't avoid Lu Tingxiao's hand. His fingers touched her earlobe and gently pinched it. Ningxi's hair stood on end. She covered her ears and looked at Lu Tingxiao as if he was a strange uncle. Lu Tingxiao's lips curved imperceptibly. He pointed to the place he had touched and said, "You have a black mole here." So, why did he mention her mole all of a sudden? Ningxi's mind was in a mess, and she couldn't understand his logic. Ordinary people can't recognize your outfit and makeup, but this mole is very iconic and completely exposed. "It's better to cover it," Lu Tingxiao said. Ningxi stood 2 steps away. "It's just a mole. No one will notice it, right? It's best to be careful." "Alright, what you said makes sense. I'll wear a bigger ear stud to cover it later." "Yes." After a brief confrontation, Ningxi finally rode away from the gate. Why did she have the illusion that she would lose miserably at the beginning of this round? No. Wake up. I must break the superstition of the great demon king. At the bar. It was rare for Ningxi to indulge herself. She ordered a bottle of wine and sat at the bar. On the dance floor, demons were dancing wildly, but she didn't have the slightest interest. She absent-mindedly held the wine glass and stared blankly. Nightclubs and bars had lost their novelty during her years abroad. No matter how hot the scene was, in her eyes, it was like a silent and comical mime. After drinking a bottle of wine, Ningxi ordered a second bottle. Instead of relaxing her, the alcohol only made her more upset. At this moment, a man walked towards her with a glass of wine in his hand. "Miss, are you alone?" The man looked to be in his 30s. He was well dressed and looked like an elite. He seemed to have a good sense of himself. In the time it took to order a bottle of wine, many men in the bar had already noticed her. However, Ningxi looked like a veteran, and most people didn't dare to touch her. Chapter 232. Ningxi glanced at the man's left ring finger from the corner of her eye. Although he wasn't wearing a wedding ring on his finger, it was obvious that he had taken it off temporarily to pick up girls. "Yes." Ningxi tilted her head and replied lazily. The man's face lit up. "Can I sit down?" "Of course." Ningxi smiled lightly, her eyes carrying an obvious hint. The man couldn't hide the joy on his face. He began to say something cliched. "Are you in a bad mood?" Ningxi sighed. "Yeah. I've fallen out of love. A beauty like you can fall out of love too? What kind of man doesn't know how lucky he is?" The elite man looked surprised. "I dumped him." "Ahem. Then he must have made you angry." "Yeah. I just came to the nightclub to have sex." "What's wrong with that?" "After he found out, he started to fight with me. Don't you think it's infuriating?" "Ooh." The elite man finally choked and couldn't speak. Why did he feel that this line was so familiar? He seemed to have said this when he was complaining to his buddies about how his wife fought with him all day. However, he was bewitched by the woman in front of him. He didn't realize that he had been tricked. After 3 rounds of drinks, the two of them left the bar together. "Where are we going? Junlai or Mingzhu?" The elite man asked anxiously. "Why are we going to a hotel? Let's do it here." Ningxi pulled the man into a small alley on the side. The elite man panted excitedly and pressed her against the wall. "Yes, you're right. It's more exciting here." As the two of them spoke, they didn't notice that just 5 steps away from them, a black car without a license plate was quietly parked there like a ghost. Inside the car, no matter how calm Lu Tingxiao was, he was already covered in a thick layer of frost. In the passenger seat, Lu Jingli was already regretting his decision. Because he had a strong premonition that something big would happen tonight, he couldn't fall asleep. As a result, he accidentally saw Ningxi and his brother leave one after another from the window, so he shamelessly followed them, but he never expected. How could things be this serious? He almost couldn't stand his brother's face anymore. It was so scary that it could stop children from crying at night. Watching the man in the alley touch Ningxi's waist, Lu Tingxiao's endurance should be broken even if he is an immortal. Lu Jingli could tell that Lu Tingxiao's patience was as thin as a strand of hair. "Brother, are you still not going to make a move?" Lu Tingxiao's voice was as cold as iron. "Wait a little longer." Lu Jingli was anxious. "Look at the time. What are you waiting for? If you don't make a move, you're going to turn green." Although Xiao 1111 has restrained herself a lot in the past 2 years, she still has a bad record. It's not easy for her to learn, but it's very easy for her to become bad again. Lu Tingxiao, shut up. Just as Lu Jingli closed his eyes and didn't dare to look, a heart-wrenching wail suddenly came from the other side. What? This sound isn't right. Lu Jingli opened his eyes and saw the man clutching his manhood. He was screaming more miserably than a pig being slaughtered. Then, Ningxi kicked him again and the man fell flat on his face. Just as he was about to get up, Ningxi stepped on his back. His chin hit the ground and blood flowed from his mouth. Lu Jingli couldn't bear to watch and covered his eyes. Sister-in-law is so cruel. Chapter 233. Ningxi's series of movements were as smooth as flowing water, as if she were used to doing such things. In the end, she maintained the posture of stepping on the man's back and placed one hand on her knee. The seductive charm on her face had completely turned into the arrogance of a hooligan. Hand over the phone. The jerk was dizzy from the beating and had no strength to fight back. Hearing that, he hurriedly begged for mercy. My phone is in my pocket, my wallet is in my pocket, and there's a ring in my bag. I'll give it to you. Please spare my life, heroine. He had never thought that a one-night stand would be robbed. And the robber was a beauty. And judging from her terrifying murderous aura, she must be a professional. Ningxi didn't care about the jerk's misunderstanding. She took out his phone and handed it to him. Give me your finger and unlock it for me. Unlock, unlock? What are you going to do? The jerk asked warily. Ningxi slapped him. I asked you to unlock it, so just do it. Don't talk nonsense. Believe it or not, I'll break that thing 3 inches below your navel. I'll unlock it. I'll unlock it right away. The jerk was pale with fright and quickly unlocked it for her. Ningxi found his wife's phone number in his address book and made a video call. Soon, the call went through. A woman's face appeared on the phone. She seemed to have a good foundation, but probably because she had been doing housework for a long time and didn't know how to take care of herself, she looked haggard and sallow. She was the typical image of a yellow-faced woman that jerks hated. Who are you? The woman's expression changed when she saw Ningxi's dazzling face. She said tiredly, no matter who you are, he can be with whoever he wants. I'm going to divorce him, and I won't take a penny from him. Whatever he does in the future has nothing to do with me. Don't come to me again. Ningxi shook her head with an exasperated expression. TSK, you're letting him off so easily. Sister, you're too kind. The woman didn't expect Ningxi to be so unpredictable. She couldn't help but be stunned. She asked warily, What do you mean? The corners of Ningxi's mouth curled up slightly. She pointed the camera at the scumbag who had been beaten black and blue by her feet. See? The woman was completely stunned when she saw the man on the phone. You, what are you doing? Ningxi chuckled. How is it? Don't you like it? It took the woman a long time to come back to her senses. Although she did not understand what was going on, looking at the man who was being beaten, she still subconsciously replied, "En." After the woman finished speaking, a trace of bitterness flashed across the corner of her mouth. Once upon a time, she would be extremely nervous even if he only broke a small piece of skin. Now that she saw him in such a sorry state, there was only joy in her heart. Heh, that's good. I'm calling you. I don't mean anything else. It's just that it's better to have fun together than to have fun alone. So, I'm sending it to you. Let's have fun together. Ningxi said in a frivolous tone. The woman was still in a daze, not knowing how to deal with this strange situation. As for the scumbag under Ningxi's feet, his pig-headed face was extremely distorted. He never thought that this woman would not only humiliate him physically, but also mentally, letting his wife, who had always admired him, see this side of him that had no image at all. Chapter 234. This woman wasn't doing this for money. What was she trying to do? He was so unlucky. He had met such a weirdo. However, what he didn't know was that the worst was yet to come. Ningxi suddenly thought of something. She patted her head and reminded the woman, "Oh yes, I'll send you a recording of him talking to his friends to prove that he cheated." Why didn't he get a penny from the divorce? Are you out of your mind? Give me what you deserve and don't give me a penny less. Do you hear me? Yes. Yes. The woman was shocked by Ningxi's aura and answered subconsciously. Ningxi nodded with satisfaction and said earnestly, well, that's right. You can find any man you want with money. Even if you don't love him, you can at least have an obedient and handsome boy toy. If he doesn't listen to you, you can change him at any time. How great is that? The woman was speechless. The scumbag was speechless. Lu Jingli, who was standing not far away, was speechless. He actually felt that what his sister-in-law said made sense. Lu Tingxiao was speechless. The woman on the other end of the phone was confused and couldn't help asking, "Thank you. But, who are you? Why are you helping me? Do we know each other?" Ningxi smiled at the camera. "Don't mention it. Just call me Lei Feng." Then she hung up the phone, kicked the scumbag away and walked away. Lu Jingli's jaw dropped. "Brother, although I shouldn't say this, I really can't help but say. Sister-in-law is so damn handsome. I'm almost in love with her." Lu Tingxiao didn't have the energy to pay attention to the excited Lu Jingli. He pinched his eyebrows tiredly and looked as if he had just survived a disaster. Lu Jingli looked at his brother in admiration. "Brother, you're the best. If you hadn't restrained yourself, we wouldn't have been able to see such a wonderful scene." Lu Jingli looked thoughtful and said excitedly, "Speaking of which, I suddenly thought of one thing. Although I only found a list of some of them, all of them were scumbags, and they were all dumped by Ningxi in the end, including Jiang Mui. Jiang Mui always avoided talking about his relationship with Ningxi. Do you think the reason why Ningxi dated those scumbags is similar to today's situation? Fishing for bait, enforcing the law on behalf of heaven, upholding love and justice." Lu Tingxiao's expression didn't change in the slightest when he heard Lu Jingli's tone. He had never believed that she was that kind of person. Even if it was true in the past, it didn't matter. After taking care of the scumbag, Ningxi hummed a song as she rode her bike. She felt refreshed and energetic. Sure enough, abusing a scumbag was the most effective way to relieve stress. Ningxi looked at the time on the phone. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. It was still too early. She would go back at least at 6 o'clock. Because at that time, she would bump into Lu Tingxiao in the living room. So, after thinking for a while, Ningxi turned a corner and drove to the west of the city. Half an hour later, she drove to the riverbank. After parking the car, he walked to the soft grass and sat down. She could sober up by the wind. There was another good thing about this place, and that was, there were a lot of mosquitoes. Ningxi lay down and muttered to herself, "Mosquitoes, mosquitoes, it's time to eat. Come and bite me." Chapter 235. This place was too spacious, and their car had nowhere to hide, so they could only park far away. Fortunately, Lu Jingli had brought a miniature camera the size of a fly with him, and it was infrared, so it could take pictures even at night. It flew right above Ningxi's head. "Ha ha ha ha. Brother, I told you that I would be useful if you brought me along." Lu Jingli was so proud of himself. On the screen of the car, Ningxi was lying on the grass under the night sky, repeatedly saying, "Mosquitoes, come and bite me. Sister-in-law, did you drink too much? Did you come all the way here just to feed the mosquitoes?" Lu Jingli was speechless. Lu Tingxiao didn't speak, as if he didn't find it strange at all. He focused all his attention on the girl on the screen. After Ningxi relaxed, the alcohol kicked in. She closed her eyes and felt sleepy. In a daze, she heard the rustling of footsteps behind her, and then the annoying buzzing of the mosquitoes gradually disappeared. Her body, which felt cold because of the night wind, was covered with warmth. The moment the familiar smell enveloped her, the trace of sobriety that she had forced herself to maintain disappeared. Because she was always alone, she never dared to completely pass out. She didn't even know that there was a person who could make her drunk without worrying. Lu Tingxiao helped her drive away the mosquitoes, took off his coat and covered her body. Then he stretched out an arm to rest under her neck, so that her skin wouldn't be pricked by the grass. The girl grabbed his clothes and slept soundly. Although her face was heavily made up, the innocence between her eyebrows was like that of a young and ignorant child. which made people feel sorry for her. When Ningxi woke up, the sky was already bright. She looked at the time and saw that it was already 5:30. She only took a short nap, but she slept for so long. Ningxi patted her butt and got up. She looked at her body and was surprised to find that there weren't many mosquito bites, but it was enough. She had thought that she would be covered with bites after sleeping for so long. If that was the case, it would be too exaggerated and the effect wouldn't be good. What was even more strange was that in this autumn season, and she was by the river, when she woke up, her body actually felt warm, without a trace of coldness. Maybe it was because of the alcohol. Half an hour later, Ningxi returned to the Lu mansion. It was exactly 6 o'clock. In the living room, Lu Tingxiao was drinking tea and reading the newspaper as usual. So far, everything had gone smoothly. "Good morning, Lu Tingxiao." Ningxi walked into the room and greeted him. "Morning, you're back." Lu Tingxiao raised his head from between the newspapers. Ningxi secretly observed Lu Tingxiao's expression and found that it was too difficult to observe the expression of a person with facial paralysis. This was because he was expressionless most of the time, and it was the same at this moment. Ningxi didn't give up. She sat down on the sofa opposite Lu Tingxiao and deliberately touched her neck. At such a close distance, he should be able to see it, right? Sure enough, Lu Tingxiao's gaze lingered on the suggestive red spots on her neck and exposed skin. Then, his brows furrowed even tighter. Ningxi pretended not to notice and yawned. "I'm so tired. I'm so sleepy." "Why are you bitten by mosquitoes?" Lu Tingxiao asked. "Phut, cough cough cough." Ningxi almost choked on her own saliva. Was there a mistake? "When I went to the nightclub dressed like that and came back early in the morning, shouldn't you, as a normal adult man, think of love bites when you see those ambiguous marks?" Chapter 236. What kind of mosquito bite was that? She had gone to a bar. A bar. How could it be a mosquito bite? Boss, where was your high IQ and logic? But she couldn't possibly tell him that it was a hickey, could she? It was too strange. Her plan had failed. Ningxi was in so much pain that she wanted to die. Just then, Lu Tingxiao put down the newspaper, got up, and took out a small white bottle from the drawer under the TV cabinet. Ningxi looked up warily. "Brother, what are you doing now?" "This medicinal oil is very effective against mosquito bites." As Lu Tingxiao spoke, he opened the lid, dug out some, and melted it in his palm. Then, his warm palm directly pressed against her neck. The moment his palm touched her, Ningxi bounced up as if she had been electrocuted. I'll do it myself. Don't move. My hand is full of medicine." Lu Tingxiao stopped her. His slightly rough fingers gently rubbed on her neck, collarbone, and back to help her absorb the medicine. He looked serious and solemn, as if he was doing something very solemn. Because of the medicinal oil, the places that were touched by his fingers felt cool, but under the skin, there was a fire that was slowly igniting. After a while, Lu Tingxiao finally finished applying the medicine. "How is it?" Ningxi came back to her senses. She touched the mosquito bite and blinked. Then she said in surprise, "Amazing. It really doesn't itch at all. What kind of medicine is this? Why is it so effective?" Ningxi wanted to bite her tongue off the moment she finished speaking. She had actually let it slip. Damn. It seemed that her previous premonition was absolutely right. She had really failed miserably. Ningxi drooped her head pitifully like a defeated kitten, and muttered in a dissatisfied tone, "Lu Tingxiao. I drank. It's okay to drink once in a while. I'll help you hide it from Xiaobao. I'm going to the nightclub, okay? Just be careful. I won't be home at all." "Lu Tingxiao, aren't you angry at all?" Ningxi was finally angry. "Do you want me to be angry?" Lu Tingxiao's tone was calm as he gazed at her darkly. Ningxi's eyes widened. She had been outmaneuvered. Lu Tingxiao helped her remove a blade of grass stuck in her hair. "I told you before that you can treat this place as your own home." At this point, Lu Tingxiao suddenly paused and then changed the topic. "Actually, I don't want you to go to a bar or a nightclub alone late at night because I won't be able to sleep because of worry. However, I still respect your freedom. Ningxi's chest was hit by an arrow, Cupid's arrow. Hehe, there was no way to fight this battle. The enemy was a lone wolf. Fang. Noodles. Crush. Press down. After that, Ningxi went to bars for a week, but to no avail. The only effect was, because she had dealt with a few scumbags in a row, almost all the bars in the city had started to be under martial law, and if they saw a beautiful woman, they would be strictly checked. Sigh. Everything is going wrong. Ningxi finally calmed down a little. Of course, she didn't forget about business. She continued to play with Xiaobao everywhere, almost playing the entire capital. The biggest gain during this period was that under her company, Xiaobao's personality became more and more cheerful. He was no longer afraid to go out. Except that he still didn't speak and was a little introverted, he was almost like a normal child. That was great. She could finally rest assured when she left. Chapter 237. One morning, Ningxi went downstairs and saw something she hadn't seen for a long time. Little Steamed Bun and Big Steamed Bun sat opposite each other at the dining table. One had an iceberg face while the other had an iceberg face. The atmosphere was tense. What was going on? The father and son hadn't quarreled for a long time. What's wrong with you two? Ningxi asked suspiciously. Hearing Ningxi's voice, Little Bun immediately hugged her leg as if he had seen his savior. Then he stared at Lu Tingxiao vigilantly, as if Lu Tingxiao was going to sell him out. Ningxi hugged Little Bao and comforted him. Then she looked at Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao, what's going on? Lu Tingxiao looked up. I'm going to send him to my parents' place for a few days. They haven't seen him for a long time and they miss him. So that's how it is. Ningxi nodded. When Little Bun saw this, she became anxious. Her big watery eyes quickly became misty. Ningxi's heart softened. She scratched her head and looked at Lu Tingxiao. Is there no other way? Lu Tingxiao glanced at her. Yes, let my parents stay for a few days. Well, send Little Bao over, Ningxi said decisively. Sorry, Little Bun. Auntie has no other choice. Little Bao was devastated. He ran upstairs and hid in his room with an expression as if his parents didn't love him. Ningxi laughed dryly. Well, I'll talk to him. Okay. Upstairs, Ningxi knocked on Little Bao's door. Baby, can you open the door for Auntie? There was no response from the room. Is he really ignoring me? There was still no response from the room. It seemed that he was really angry. Ningxi sighed. She had no choice but to go downstairs and walk out of the door. Lu Tingxiao said without looking up, Don't climb with your bare hands. Let the butler prepare a ladder for you. Ningxi stumbled and almost fell. Was this guy a roundworm in her stomach? How did he know that she was going to climb the wall and jump over the window? Damn it. These days, she found that Lu Tingxiao knew her better and better. Most of the time, he knew what she was going to do with just a glance or a small movement. 5 minutes later, Ningxi climbed the ladder and successfully jumped into Little Bao's room. As soon as the little fellow saw her, he ran over to her with tears in his eyes. His expression was full of grievance. When there was no response from outside the house, he thought that Ningxi really didn't want him anymore. Ningxi's heart ached as she hugged Little Bun. Baby, Auntie will always be on your side, but this time, Auntie really thinks you should go. Think about it, your grandparents only have one precious grandson. They clearly like you so much, but in order to accommodate you, they don't dare to come and see you. Xiaobao's head drooped. After a long while, he picked up the writing board and wrote 2 words, together. He wanted Ningxi to go with him. Ningxi coughed awkwardly. I can't. How could she go to Lu Tingxiao's parents at a time like this? Because I'm about to start work. I'm afraid I don't have time. Ningxi found a good excuse and hurriedly coaxed, but I can send you there with your father. Be a good boy. Xiaobao is already a 5-year-old little boy, and he has improved so much during this period of time. He is getting better and better, more and more powerful. He can definitely do such a small thing, right? Ningxi hugged the little bun, kissed and coaxed it, and spoke softly for almost half an hour. Finally, the little fellow let go. Chapter 238. The Lu family's mansion was located halfway up the mountain and occupied a large forest. It took more than 20 minutes to drive from the main gate to the house. Lush trees lined both sides of the road and the scenery was great. It was said that this was where the Dragon Vein was located, a treasured land in the capital. Thanks to Xiaobao, she had learned a lot. Through the car window, Ningxi saw the Lu family's two elders waiting at the door. They looked like ordinary old people who doted on their grandchildren. Ningxi patted Xiaobao in her arms. Go. Don't forget what Auntie told you. Do your best. Looking at the encouragement and anticipation in Ningxi's eyes, Xiaobao nodded with determination and was led out of the car by Lu Tingxiao. When they saw their precious grandson, the two elders were pleasantly surprised and quickly went up to him. Old Madame Lu was so emotional that her eyes were wet. She looked at her eldest son resentfully. Brat, we haven't seen Xiaobao for a few months because of you, but you still can't get my daughter-in-law. Lu Tingxiao coughed lightly, indicating that there was someone in the car behind them. At this distance, Ningxi could still hear them. In fact, Ningxi did hear them. Taking advantage of the fact that the people outside the car could not see the people inside, Ningxi pressed her ear to the window and eavesdropped on them. Then, she happened to hear old Madame Lu's words. Old Madame Lu was excited. Aya, daughter-in-law is here too? Let her get out of the car and let us see her. Mom. Lu Tingxiao looked helpless. She's shy, don't scare her. Ningxi nodded. Yes, I'm shy, don't call me out. Luckily, old Master Lu's words diverted everyone's attention. What is Xiaobao writing? Old Master Lu asked suspiciously. Old Madame Lu also realized that Xiaobao was writing something with his head buried in his hands after hearing her husband's words. A moment later, Xiaobao lifted the writing board and looked at his grandfather and grandmother with his big, black pearl-like eyes. On the writing board, he wrote, Grandpa, Grandma, Xiaobao misses you very much. When old Master Lu and old Madame Lu saw the words on the writing board, they looked at each other in shock. Then, their eyes turned red. Old Madame Lu looked at her husband in disbelief. Did I see wrongly? Xiaobao called me Grandma. Although it wasn't a real call, this was the first time Xiaobao had called her Grandma. In the past, he had always ignored them and even rejected them. I called him Grandpa too. Old Master Lu added solemnly and proudly. You said you missed us. Old Madame Lu couldn't hold it in anymore. She hugged Xiaobao and cried, Grandma's darling. Do you know how happy Grandma is? Old Master Lu sighed before he looked at his eldest son and said with a solemn expression, Tingxiao, the person you like is very good. She taught Xiaobao very well. He only knew that Xiaobao had become more cheerful and was willing to go out, but he had never imagined that Xiaobao had improved so much. What a pleasant surprise. Isn't that right? Also, he fed me well. Look at how fat my grandson is now. You're even fatter than in the photos. Old Madame Lu was overjoyed. Yes, she is very good. Lu Tingxiao looked at the car behind him, his gaze extremely gentle. Old Master Lu patted him on the shoulder and said earnestly, Kid, do your best. Naturally, you'll have to put in more effort for the best. We'll support you unconditionally. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.